shall we rank every single team's season?
Yep.
So we'll start at the bottom of the Premier League table and we'll give that team a mark. So Sheffield United at the very bottom of the league. We'll rank them. We'll give them a grade A down to F.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll give every single team a grade. So we'll start with Sheffield United. Booth, where'd you see that one?
Well, if there's a letter lower than F, I'll give it to them.
Hang on a minute, though. They've obviously failed because they've been relegated, sorry. But at the same time, none of us here expected them to stay up. None of us here expected them to pull up trees. We all said it's too early for Sheffield United. Even their fans kind of said that. So is it a failure if they were expected to go down and they went down?
But it's a failure by the board then, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a failure of the club altogether. Okay,
Sell it and die in the summer.
You could argue that they got prematurely promoted, so they were never supposed to be there. But when they got there, they never really made a fist for it. It was as if they'd accepted relegation before a ball was kicked. It never felt to me like they were fighting for survival.
They were a good side last season, and you're right in saying it was premature, but they've conceded over 100 goals. That is a failing on the pitch conceded. And off the pitch. Bottom and Wilder were not equipped to deal with the quality of the league. But also, they're a big club. They've got a big set of fans as well. It's a hard stadium to go to every now and then.
So are we actually giving them the lowest grade? The lowest grade possible.
I think
I'll
give them a U if I could.
I know it's kind of difficult to give them anything but an F. But I kind of feel, have they failed when they were the worst team starting?
But what they haven't done is overachieve.
They definitely,
they're the worst team in the league. They're the worst team in the league.
They came up in automatics. Luton were the worst side because they came up in the playoffs and they'd never been in the league before. Sheffield United were in the league a couple of years ago. That's top half finish.
Okay.
That's a good point.
I think that's fair. Okay, we're giving them a F.
Burnley?
F, I'd say.
Well, if Sheffield United are getting one, Burnley as well. But with Burnley, it was a bit weirder because they were like bought James Trafford for 20 million. They made a few decent-ish signings, or at least from the outside looking in. Vincent Kompany was highly rated.
Well, he was, but I think it was all misplaced. He was so highly rated, like ridiculous.
Remember like Gary Neville and that went to see him early in the season and they come out of it like, they're not going down.
Yeah. Well, do you know?
And we all kind of thought that as well.
Do you know what, Adam? I will always remember this moment. I didn't know enough about Burnley. I didn't know enough about what they achieved last year. So I thought, this is very early in the season. I thought, I'm going to actually dedicate and be professional for a very rare occasion. I'm going to dedicate a bit of time. I'm going to read an article. One of these subscription services, my mate sent me a thing, had done like this power piece on Vincent Kompany and what he's doing at Burnley. Like something mental, like 7,000 words. I was like, well, I obviously ain't reading 7,000 words on Burnley, but I'll give it a go for like the first 6 paragraphs. The way they were talking about him, it was like he's reinvented the wheel. Honestly, it was the way that people would have spoken about Jose Mourinho in 2004. Like, what is this?
Maybe they jumped the gun. In the Championship, there is an argument that they're the best side to ever get promoted out of the Championship in terms of the amount of points, the amount of goals, the brand of football.
Where you feel
they were
feels like someone does it. Who was the last?
Over 100
Fulham.
points.
Was it Fulham?
Yeah, Fulham did it.
Absolutely pissed it.
Yeah,
and then you
Fulham.
got they're the greatest Championship side ever.
Yeah. Fulham did.
But there's a narrative with Kompany being a legendary footballer as well. People love the Lampards, the Gerrards.
No, but you see, people love Kompany
when he was a manager.
People almost universally, regardless of like tribal allegiances. Like, imagine if you think about, we use you as an example here, Ad. Manchester United fan, no love for Man City. I don't think I've ever heard you really go for Kompany. Do you know what I mean? I don't think anyone does.
I have had used it to wind him up a little.
I think he's quite a popular man in football, very popular man in football, and therefore people didn't want to slate him. People didn't want to call for his head. People should have been saying he should have been sacked after 10 games.
But is there an argument he's turned it around in the last few weeks where they got close to surviving? I know
the pressure's off then.
Yeah, fine. Yeah, I think it's an F, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, okay, I think that's an F as well. Luton Town, Rob Edwards. I don't think this is an F.
I don't think it's an F.
No.
Because I expected them to be bottom of this league.
I expected them to go down with a record low points.
I said that as well.
I think they were also inspiring. They contributed to the Premier League story of this season. Ross Barkley is part of the Premier League story this season. Rob Edwards is part of the Premier League story this season. Nothing from Sheffield United and Burnley is part of this story.
When you look at their performances at home as well against some of the bigger teams, they lost
Chelsea,
late against Arsenal,
Liverpool, they got a point
against Liverpool.
Good against City.
You know, they did really, really well in their home games as well. And I think out of all of these clubs that we're talking about going down, I think Luton, going down with that money, I think the Premier League money that they've gained will change that club for the next 5-10 years, and it'll make.
And they could come back.
They've got an opportunity to come back soon.
I
so
just
think
love
they've
this
done
story.
fantastically well.
Do you remember at the beginning of the season we were reading as well? I forget the fella's name, or maybe our producer can quickly let me know. But he played for Luton in every single tier of football.
Yeah.
Like he'd gone.
We went to the playoff final.
Penza.
In Penza. He'd gone from like every single tier
The
up to the Premier League.
the way they've done
It's
it in the last
wonderful-
10 years, they've never regressed. They keep progressing as a side. They'll get relegated and they could come up next season.
Yeah.
For me, it's a C.
They
Yeah,
have to keep Rob Edwards, don't they?
Yeah.
Agreed.
I think he's good enough to be managing the Premier League.
That's the problem for them.
Yeah.
Great manager, great
What we
aura,
saying?
great prowess. C at
C or D?
the very least C. I'd say C for me.
Okay.
Buvey, you see?
Yeah, C.
Majority rule C.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Nottingham Forest. They've survived. They've done what they intended
What
to
we've
do.
got to
They
bring
cheated,
into
didn't
this.
But they've paid a penalty.
I remember
penalty.
what you just said about that for later in the video. But Forest, they had that points deduction, and whatever way you look at it, they had to compete against. At one point, it looked like they were definitely going down, right?
Yeah, they sacked Cooper, obviously brought in Nuno. He did bring stability, but there's something about the size of that club still lingering on the precipice with the money they've spent, with the kind of legal thing as well. They have had a points deduction.
It's because they weren't really anywhere near relegation. It's only because of the points deduction.
Yeah, and that's contributed. The way the club's run, we criticise Sheffield United for the owners for what they did in selling their best players.
No. If even without the points deduction, they'd still be 17th.
But they wouldn't.
They'd be a little bit
they
more
wouldn't
clear.
have nearly gone down though.
But we all,
terrible.
before the points deduction, we
wouldn't have
all
nearly
thought
gone
they were
down.
in the battle.
They'd be miles away from the relegation zone.
Yeah, they'd be
become
clear.
17th.
10 points clear. Because they're 4 points to last. But what I'm saying is, they still were kind of in a battle. It just would have been finished 3 weeks ago, right?
Yeah. They would have been safe with 10 points to spare.
But you still, for a club like Forest coming 17th, doesn't matter if they're 40 points clear of 18th, 9th and 20th. And this is, by the way, some of the three of the worst sides to ever get promoted out of the Championship. If it's anyone else, Ipswich, fantastically well, huge club, Leeds United could be in the league. They're going to get smashed next season.
I think he's done a good job, Nuno Espirito Santo. A lot of people were saying that the sacking of Steve Cooper felt harsh. It was an error. Nuno Espirito Santo didn't exactly do well at Tottenham. So it felt like there was a risk attached. But overall, I think they've done well. And if you look at the way...
performances out of Gibbs White, Hudson-Odoi.
Mate, that's what I was about to say. Think about that four, right, that they've got going forward. Like Callum Hudson-Odoi is one of the best players in the league this season, comparatively. Do you know, like, of factoring everything in. Cost £4 million. You think about what he's given that club. It cost £4 million.
Great sign.
The performances of Gibbs White, the performances earlier in the season, at least, of Anthony Elanga. They got a massive win. They went away to Stamford Bridge and won. Like Joe Worrell was man of the match that day. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's not really a Premier League player.
Yeah.
I think Forest
what you're
have done well.
saying, though, is interesting. You're laying out an argument they should be doing better than they are because they got quality players, they got a good manager,
and
they're
they're
still
a big
getting 17th.
Yeah, but
it's so
they're a big club
underwhelming.
based off their history, right? They got promoted to the Premier League last season.
Yeah, and they spent
And they've
150 million quid.
retained it and they've stayed there.
They spent nearly 200 million quid.
Let's try and put a...
They should be doing better than
But Burnley
17.
spent 100 million quid or something like
They
that.
should be
and
finished.
They still went
but
down.
they couldn't even finish above Brentford. They've been shocking this
What
season.
would you say, Booth? If you're going to give them a grading, what are you saying?
Give them a big fat D.
D.
You give them the D.
I don't think...
Poor child.
I agree. I think Nottingham Forest have done at least as well as Luton.
I think a D might be fair.
have.
They've survived with a points deduction.
I know on a footballing level, obviously, getting relegated is worse than, but Luton have outshone Nottingham Forest by a country
Okay,
mile.
let me play a game with you. Let's look at the teams that are just ahead of them. Who do you think they should be finishing above based on the squad that they have?
Money and size. Brentford.
Everton,
Wolves.
Wolves.
Brentford and Bournemouth and Fulham. Like when Bournemouth, Fulham and Brentford are above you and you're Nottingham Forest, I imagine that doesn't feel quite right. Scale of club, like the scale
Even
of club.
Palace. I know Palace are...
Bournemouth shouldn't be above Forest.
Palace
are more established Premier League team.
Don't get me wrong.
At the moment.
Palace
They
have
should
been
be in and
a
around
Premier League
that
team for a
debate. They
decade,
should be in and around that debate.
Okay, so
Palace only got relegated this season.
So
don't forget.
you're saying D.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe you've convinced me. Okay, let's go D, shall we?
Oh yeah.
Okay, D. Everton.
No, Brentford.
Brentford.
You hate Brentford, don't you?
I don't care about Brentford.
You don't care about him, but you hate. Do you hate Thomas Frank? Dislike Thomas Frank?
Yeah, I don't like Thomas Frank.
What do you dislike? Is it the narrative around him?
Yeah.
Is it him?
Him. All of the above. All of the above. And the thing that really did it for me is when he, at Brentford, the most insignificant club in the Premier League, had the audacity to come out and say that fixture congestion around replays in the FA Cup should be scrapped. Like, shut up, Div. A decade ago, you would have been begging to go to Old Trafford. Don't forget who you are, Brentford. Like, you're not a Premier League club. You've never been a Premier League club. Like, you're so insignificant. And you're now saying that
Trying to pull the ladder.
Yeah, pull up the ladder. They've got up and suddenly the fixture congestion means something to them.
Yeah.
So they're saying no replays. I went to Brentford when Chelsea went there as a replay, right? Torres scored for us. Their fans have sold the biggest game they've ever had.
Wasn't it a replay against Southampton that kept them in business?
Yes.
At one point.
Yes, it was. Yes,
So
it was.
replays are massively important to the history of their club.
And no, I think the other thing is I just don't think they bring much to the Premier League. I just find them like totally insignificant. I don't like them. I don't dislike them. I find them a nothing club.
With all that said, though, you think they're all this and they're still a Premier League club and they stayed up.
Yeah, they've done very well.
That's why it's a good achievement.
That's why it's a good achievement.
It's a C for me.
And they had no Ivan Toney for half.
No Ivan Toney.
Tiny, yeah. But although when he's come back, he's barely
Haven't
scored.
spent much. Their brand of football, when they do play good football, is decent. They look good on the eye. They're an aesthetic club.
I think for them, though, it's unsustainable, this. Like whether they get relegated next season, the season after, or the season after, they will be relegated.
They'll be candidates to get relegated.
Yeah. I guess they've done. I guess they've done well. Any season for Brentford that ends in survival is a good season.
Yeah, million %.
So fair play to them. They've managed to retain Premier League status. So C.
Yeah, C. Yeah.
Everton.
Brilliant.
You've got to take into consideration with Everton. Without the points deduction, right now they'd be 11th or 12th.
Yeah. So don't say what you're about to say.
What? Pushing for Europe?
No, that's not because that's not what you said. You said that they would be in Europe, and where they actually
at some point
under Sean Dyche.
Is Sean Dyche currently the manager of Everton?
Can I just say, does 11?
At least answer the
does 11?
So,
okay, you want me to answer the formulaic question?
Yeah.
Is Sean Dyche the manager of Everton?
Yeah.
Yes.
So next season, he'll still be there, and they can get into Europe next season. So my point's valid.
No. And now,
what if they keep Branthwaite?
Now hear my answer.
You said they're going to finish
now hear my answer.
You said Europe this season.
No, hear my
never
answer.
this season.
No. You have to now hear my answer.
Yeah, go on.
You said that if they were 11th, they'd be pushing for Europe. I would say that being 11th isn't pushing for Europe.
11th is a platform. You were 11th for most of the season.
Yes, but being 11th, you're not in. We finished it. Hang on.
Yeah.
No, it's not. Hey. Wait. Adam's saying it's a good point doesn't make it a good point. If anything,
I respect Adam's opinion.
It's not a good point.
I remember that for later in his video.
Chelsea finished 6th. It's currently 11th in the Premier League. The team that finished 11th in the Premier League are Brighton.
Yeah,
Brighton aren't pushing for Europe.
No, it's a platform. Coming 11th,
Where are
10th
European
is a
team
platform.
this season?
That's
exactly,
isn't it? Yeah. Hang on, I'm saying 11th doesn't mean that you're pushing for Europe.
No, it's a platform for the following season.
Right, but it's not pushing.
I'm saying Everton's season this season's been so good, I can see a platform where they can get into Europe. All jokes aside.
Sean Dyche was a contender and should be a contender for Manager of the Month. Manager of the year.
Yeah.
Manager of the year.
Yeah.
I think he's a contender. I think he's done outrageously well. The back line that they've put together, they're so stubborn. They've had some big results. And by rights, they should be a championship team now.
Yeah.
They've been circling the drain for such a long time and they've managed to survive. It's not easy.
Last season at Goodison, next season as well.
Yeah, I think...
one more time.
Do you know what I'm giving Everton? I'm giving Everton an A.
Yeah, I agree.
I'd give B, but I'm happy to go with it.
I don't see how it could be any better. How many points did they have deducted in the end? 9?
8.
8.
That's crazy.
It's
been a calm season.
It's a
Lots
lot
of positives.
That's the thing.
Ashley Young is
It
about
never
55.
really felt
right
like
back.
going down.
No,
It's
there
never-
was one.
no.
There was one rocky
No, but-
period after Christmas. There was one rocky period where they had the points deducted. They then used the points deduction as like an impetus to really win some games, and then it went stale. It went really stale. But you've got to remember, they are probably definitely one of the worst run clubs in the world. The 777 takeover has been a shocker.
You had the Russian fella as well.
Yeah, not
Was he Russian?
Uzmanov.
No, Uzmanov, who, yes.
It was involved. Something to do with the Russia
and he
and all
got,
that.
he got sanctioned in the States. Do you know what I mean?
was it? Sorry.
He got sanctioned in the States, Uzmanov. So it was really, really difficult. Ken Wright didn't do very well by that club for decades. You also had the issues with Denise Barrett-Baxendale. There was so much going on. The 7-7 takeover was poison. Like they were so not right for the Premier League. They so weren't correct for fit and proper people buying an institution like Everton. And all that going on, all that storm going on, what do Everton do? Survive? Stop, in their eyes, stop Liverpool winning the league.
Yeah, there's that.
Huge win. Historic win.
Sean Dyche is arguably manager of the year. Probably don't win it. Most people probably disagree with me.
But his
signings
team.
were actually Young was criticised for
You've
his
got
signing.
Unai Emery, Dyche for the alternative manager of the year, haven't you?
Yeah. I'm giving Everton an A.
Hey, yeah.
I hear you. What about Wolves with Gary O'Neill?
A.
Easily.
Hey.
They have fallen
That
off the
club
last
should
few
have
weeks.
gone down. Yeah, they haven't. They haven't.
They were punching above a little bit before.
I had them going down.
This
Really,
is the
yeah.
misconception. This is the misconception. They haven't fallen off. What's happened is they've succeeded and achieved what they wanted to achieve so early in the season
They can just be casual.
that they've been casual.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
at one point, can you believe these words I'm about to say? At one point, Wolverhampton Wanderers, despite everything that happened last summer with Lopetegui, Wolverhampton Wanderers looked likely to finish in Europe.
Can I just say though, they only won 2 of their last 11 Premier
Yeah,
League
because they'd
games.
survived.
That's a third of the
Yeah, okay, but look, maybe you could argue it went wrong there. Okay, I don't agree. I think that survival was an amazing achievement, and they therefore got the
No, I
survival
agree
and they
with
turned
that,
it off.
but given the context, could they have not pushed for it?
They possibly could have gone a little bit harder for Europe.
Because 2 more points and they finish 11th. 1 more win and they finish in the top half.
Yeah, okay.
You know what I mean?
But Gary O'Neill's a young manager. He's got a lot of room to improve there, hasn't he? And,
Yeah.
and the way he got Nuri bombing down the flank, Hwang up
Maybe
front.
he had his head turned a few times this season, Gary O'Neill, as well.
Nah,
There was
I
a
just
few clubs speaking about him
Mate,
potentially.
at one
being
point,
the man.
Liverpool.
Liverpool.
1 point, Liverpool. I mean, for me, it felt like he was so suited to be the next West
He
Ham
beat
manager.
Liverpool this season at Molineux. Molineux was a fortress. Beat Man City.
Beat Chelsea.
Huge.
You got to stop bringing up beating, like,
Yeah, Chelsea's a standard 3 points for most clubs.
Well, we battered you, so
We beat you.
No, we battered you.
We beat you.
No, but we beat you on aggregate.
We beat you.
We beat you on aggregate.
no, we didn't. We won 2-0.
we
You
beat
won 4-3.
We beat you on aggregate.
We beat you
We
on
beat you in a
Actually,
bigger
they beat
game.
you on aggregate.
Yeah, we beat you on aggregate.
Quick math.
actually.
Yeah, it's an A. It's an A. 1,000,000%. Love Gary
A.
O'Neill.
Love Gary O'Neill.
1,000,000%.
Actually, we drew on aggregate. It was 2-1 and 4-3.
Quick maths, you utter idiot.
I don't follow your
Utter
fucking
idiot.
dead
Cole
sides.
Palmer scored.
Where are you in the league? I can't even see. I need binoculars.
Can't you even-
I need a
can't you
telescope.
even do maths?
Can we zoom in? Where are
Do
Man
you even
United?
know that you've won
Man
the league?
United and Chelsea, £1,000,000,000 down the
Mate,
drain.
but to Buvey,
£1,000,000,000 bottle
Buvey
jobs.
doesn't actually know that they've won
Lads,
the league because
can I
he
just
can't
say-
do the maths.
can I just say
Buvey
this?
thinks they finished
All
with
right.
39
Rory,
points.
let me just say this uninterrupted. Blue £1,000,000,000 bottle jobs, okay?
Let me just say this, uninterrupted. 1-1-5.
Yeah, boy.
You made me go low. When you go low, I go high.
We're getting cooking.
quarter
We're
to
cooking.
7.
When you go low, I go high.
On Monday morning, it's 6:45.
Yeah, A
So what we say for Wolves? A.
£1,000,000%.
A, B, A, you go. Yeah. Because I had them going down. So the fact they're still a Premier League club and comfortable.
Yeah, but your predictions are, they didn't mean
Your
anything.
prediction.
No, but
You
even
said Man United were going to win the league.
Yeah, but
Come on. So at the top of your table's Man United and the bottom's Wolves. You couldn't be any more wrong.
And where's Fulham for you, Boo?
It's a B. It could be an A because there's an argument. Fulham staying in the league. They're a yo-yo
They
club.
lost their Mitrovic.
They lost their goals. They signed Raul Jimenez. Struggled. He's nearly 2 years without a goal, isn't it, for Jimenez?
They've had some of the best players in the league.
In terms of what?
Footballers.
Fulham?
Yes, Fulham.
What are you on about?
it's not about the best performing
Some of the
players
best
in league.
performing
What,
players.
Paulinho, you mean, and players like
Robinson.
that? Yeah, Robinson, left back, unbelievable. Yeah. There's an argument it's an A, but maybe that's generous.
Yeah.
Fulham, what are we saying?
Low A.
I'll go C, man. It'll
C?
be,
They're only above you in the table. Little old Fulham.
I think they're a B.
because Fulham, come on, no one expected them to go down this.
They are not, a Premier League
Marco
season for
Silva's
them
a
is
very good coach
Yeah.
as well. No one expected them to go down.
What? They're not a C. That's so,
No one
so
expected them to
harsh.
go down,
If they're a
man.
C, what are you? A Z? Do you know what I mean? What? They're fantastic.
No, but there's context to it. They've got some fantastic players. Paulinho, everyone was talking about being a player
Yeah, you know he
that
went
played
to
for a
Bayern
Champions League
Munich.
club. They've got Tosin Adarabioyo, who's being linked with some of the biggest clubs
Yeah.
in England at the moment. As we said, Anthony Robinson at one point was the best performing left back, I think.
But Fulham stay in the league's good, and it's better than
Yes,
C.
it is. It's still very good. That's why I'd never say below a C.
League Cup
really.
run as well.
But, Marco Silva is an incredible manager. And they did well last season.
B then? Should we just meet in the middle?
Yeah, let's meet in the middle. Meet you halfway.
Yeah.
Right on the borderline. What about Bournemouth?
Bournemouth A.
This might be an A star.
Areola or Iriola, whatever his
I mean,
name
they've
is.
nearly hit 50 points, man.
The brand
That's
of football,
mental.
highest ever finish. Solanke up front. You got a tune out of him. Could never do it in the league. Did it in the Championship. Then he's done it in the Premier League.
People
fair
are talking
play.
about Solanke for England.
Look, I'll read out their midfield.
Also, Iriola at one point, it looked like he was a terrible
Was it
appointment.
0 wins in 9?
Yeah, it was a terrible appointment for a quarter of the season. And then he just spun it, man.
When you read their midfield is this: Tyler Adams, Philip Billing, Ryan Christie, Lewis Cook, Michael Da Costa, Romain Fava, Dominic Sardi, Alex Scott,
Justin
and Mark
Cliver.
Tavernier.
And Championship players in
No, they're their
Semenyo
forwards,
and
Justin
Scott.
Cliver. But it's like, that stinks of a championship
Relegation.
midfield
Championship
or
side.
relegated.
They signed Championship players.
I'll tell you who's made a pig's ear of it. Roberto De Zerbi.
Mate,
In what way?
In the way that he made a pig's ear out of it in the football. If you think about how it's gone for him,
Mate, it's how they started the season, it's how they ended it.
You mean
Look,
at the end
I
of the
think
season
to a
falling
certain
off?
extent, we have to say Brighton staying as a Premier League club is still a huge achievement
Exactly.
when
So
you
it's
look
a
at the
B-
size of their
B.
club. I know it's not a B though,
It starts
but they
at B.
started the season as a European team.
at least also
They got out of the group.
the aspirations
Not
around the
bad.
club. The aspirations around the club have changed so much.
Yeah, that's the issue, isn't it?
Like they were constantly moving on up, weren't they? Taking a step forward.
There were whispers Champions League football. Could we do it?
There was.
Them and Villa.
There genuinely was. And if you think about, look, don't
They
get me
won
wrong,
two of their last 13.
they did well in Europe, but it ended in catastrophe, didn't it? Like Lukaku destroying them.
And he kind of criticised the ownership, didn't he? He said that that was a squad to compete and stuff like that. And you think, you're Brighton.
Yeah.
But the brand of football's fantastic. Staying in the league for a club like Brighton, who've never been in the Premier League before that, is still fantastic. That's why I mean the base grade has to be a B.
I think that, look, there's something important to acknowledge has happened as well to Brighton. Crystal Palace, their big rival, finished a point above them.
Also,
Like, when you think about the cavity between the two teams last
Let's look
season.
at the team as well. They had Matoma. Everyone was talking about him like he was the best thing since blowjobs. He had,
They did. They did.
were.
They said that he could turn water into.
Evan
Yeah, I'm not saying
Ferguson.
it.
One of the most
Ferguson.
You're
sought after strikers
You're criticising fringe players. Like, he's a young kid.
I'm not
had
I'm
injuries.
criticising the manager for what he got out of these players.
I'd argue he got more out of them than they deserved at the time. And they've come back, they've regressed to the mean. You know,
João Pedro, highly rated player.
he's had a good season. He scored loads of goals.
Yeah, but these are the players they've got, and they've
But don't forget,
won 2 out of the last 13 games.
I'm just being generous. They sold some of their best players to Chelsea, lost their manager last season to Chelsea. De Zerbi's done a decent job. I'm not saying it's an A, but it's not a C, is it? It's Brighton in the league.
I think it's a
Then
D.
they got out of their group in Europe.
They've regressed.
They spent no money.
They have regressed.
They still got Danny Welbeck up front. James Milner they had to sign on a
Oh,
free.
you've got Evan Ferguson. I know he's been injured for a few weeks, but regardless, you had him for most of the season.
I don't think
He's
it's
a
controversial
young
to
kid.
say that they've regressed. They finished below Palace.
So if it's a good season for Brighton is a B. Maybe it's a C, but it's
C.
not a D.
What would an A or a B look like for Brighton this year then?
European qualification.
Again.
Yeah, building upon the foundations of Europe.
Yeah.
So it's a D for me. Finishing in the bottom half of the table.
But they're punching so much above their weight. They're competing with sides.
We all talk about Tony Bloom, how great he is, the recruitment, how great that is.
Yeah.
We talk about all these things. We came into the season going, Matoma, he's got a fucking a PhD.
But you're right.
Fucking
But you're
dribbling
right,
and
Adam.
all
You're
that.
right. If they come 17th, what you just said is right. That's a good league position for Brighton.
If I said to you at the beginning of the season,
I don't even like Brighton.
if I said to you at the beginning of the season, Brighton and Bournemouth will finish on the same points, that would have felt very underwhelming for Brighton fans.
One thing I would say in
We've
defence of
given Bournemouth
Buvey
an A,
is,
haven't we?
when you look at the teams that have finished above them, it's only really Palace where you go, you should be finishing above them.
West Ham are in the Olympic
City, Arsenal,
Stadium.
Liverpool, Villa, Tottenham, Chelsea, Newcastle, Man United.
Billions above
They
them.
shouldn't be finishing above any of those.
No, but they were last year.
Yeah, but, eventually Chelsea are going to, do a little bit better.
I do think it's a fair point though that they've ended the season on the same points as Bournemouth. If you asked the Brighton fan at the beginning of the season, if you offered them, you will finish on the same points as Bournemouth, do you accept that? They would have said no. That's possibly relegation.
Well, their fans are fickle. From my understanding of Brighton, that is not a bad position. You can't give Brighton B for coming 11th.
He didn't say you'll finish 11th, which will be the same points as Bournemouth.
Yeah.
He said at the start of the season, you'll finish on the same points as Bournemouth.
But we've just given Bournemouth a major grade out of nowhere.
Yeah, because
it was
they've
such a
done well and
surprise.
they've achieved more. So what he's trying to say is
I
Brighton
get
fans
it,
at the
I
beginning
get
of the season would have thought Bournemouth would be involved in a relegation battle. The expectations for both of those clubs are massively
D's
different.
harsh, isn't it?
Yet they've finished.
What do you think? C, done.
C.
Lovely. Right, Palace. They've finished strong. Glasner, baby.
It's outrageous. Outrageous.
They won 5 of their last 6 Premier League games.
They
which is
beat
incredible.
Liverpool,
Battered Villa on the last day.
Newcastle, the brand of football,
Sorry, 6 out of their last 7 games.
Yeah.
In that Villa one. Sorry.
the energy, and he's a new manager in the league. We have to give him
Bodes
credit
very
for
well
that.
for them next season.
Yeah, if he stays, there's so much interest in him now.
For them?
Yeah, I think you have to give him an A.
Wait,
It's a great story.
No, who are
we're
we giving
judging
an
the
A?
whole season though. You got there's a Hodgson era, isn't there? Like we're judging Palace across the season.
maybe that's too generous.
We're judging them across the season. However, a 10th place finish, finishing above Brighton, finishing in the top half, are all good things for Palace, and all things that are not what they would have expected prior to the season starting.
Maybe it's a B.
Maybe it's a B, Buvey.
Balance that out.
A B for Buvey. There we go. What about West Ham United?
Have they kind
Why
of
don't you
just
do a big
stayed the
sigh
same?
while you think about it?
Well, it's a hard question.
Do a big sigh.
It's a
while you
hard
think about
question.
it.
Are West Ham worse than last season? No. Are they better?
They are worse than last season. That last season they won a trophy.
But it was the Conference League. They started this year in the Europa League.
Yeah, and they
More
went
difficult
far in that.
competition. And they went far in it.
And they compete with
No,
Leverkusen.
but hang on, they had a worse season. They won silverware last year. They didn't win
No,
silver.
but maybe they would have won if they were in a lesser European competition this season. Maybe they would have won that.
Yeah, they
were in a
compete
better
against treble
competition.
winners, invincible.
It's like going,
Leverkusen.
you do all right in the Champions League, but you go, oh, but last season they won the Europa League. Yeah, but this season they're in the Champions League.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, regardless of that, I'd still say it was a better season though. The year that you win the Europa League, if Chelsea win the Europa League next season,
I kind of see where you're coming from.
it's always a better
But I
season.
think considering they lost Declan Rice, considering they had to improve in terms of they jumped up in a competition in Europe, and they finished 9th this season with all those changes, losing Declan Rice, bringing a few signings in, I think they've had a pretty, I'd say a C, B kind of season.
B for me. Yeah,
And David Moyes was on his way out.
yeah.
They've had some terrible results along the way, like terrible performances, terrible.
So you try and argue me
Okay,
down.
some of their individual performances, individual games, are some of the worst that they have had that I can remember. Going away to Liverpool in the cup, conceding 5 to Chelsea, like they have been battered at times. The brand of football is incredibly tiring as well, and I just think that
They won 2 of their last 10,
2 of the last 10.
so that's pretty bad.
Look, what they have become under David Moyes is stable. And I think stable isn't a bad word, but I think it's quite an uninspiring word. It's Lopetegui, isn't it? If that feels fairly underwhelming to me.
He ran out of Wolves.
He ran out of Wolves.
He hasn't
worried
played
about
good
what's going on
football.
there.
He ran out
No, he
because
did.
of the
But
structure.
it's a bit
He'll
Moyes.
enjoy
It's
that
a bit,
structure.
But then
the
Gary
football's
O'Neill
a bit
gets them
Moyesy, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think he'll enjoy Alvarez as a defensive midfielder. He can sit with Alvarez, and the 2 centre backs fantastic. Kudu's up front.
The running of the club, I don't know if we should factor this in when we're basing our grades, but the way that it's gone, the way that the club have behaved around David Moyes, like publicly embarrassing him while they go and search for a new manager openly whilst he is their manager.
It's grim.
It's really grim.
But does that not suggest that he knows he's not the manager next season?
No, because he had a big falling out with the director of football, that's Stuyton. Moyes banned him from the training ground. Like it went public, it went grim. Tim Stuyton obviously going around Europe, flirting with managers, talking to Amorim, talking to Lopetegui, talking to anyone who will listen, basically.
Amorim seemed to use that to try and get a Liverpool job.
Yeah, it
didn't
was
he?
leverage. He came to London though, and Amorim has had to apologise to the Sporting Lisbon fans ever since. He came to London to meet West Ham
As they're winning a league title.
and
Competing for that.
he basically said, if any of my players did this, I'd have sacked him. I'm really sorry.
Yeah.
But he came to meet West Ham. This is all going on, and we're discussing it, and we know about it. You and I am talking about it. We know about it. Whilst David Moyes is their manager, preparing for games.
Over 1,100 Premier League games managed. How disrespectful is that?
It's so disrespectful. And I've never been Moyes' biggest fan, but the public embarrassment involved in that is a disgrace. Particularly when you think about what he did for that club. You know, he's now comparable to the very best, like John Lyall
He
and
is
all
the
that.
best manager they've had probably in the modern era.
In the modern era, yeah, I think they would argue like Lyall and that, but
So is it C? It screams a C for me.
screams a C.
I think D's harsh.
Unless I know this isn't quite what we're doing. But you know, if you bring in the running of the no, actually, we can't do that because
You know
then
what, though?
Everton would
But then
have.
they brought in some great signings as well.
Everything you
know
said,
what I mean?
though, is it backs up Moyes doing a great job, because if you're in a position and you know everyone's looking for a replacement for you,
And you're still turning out
and your
results.
players know that,
Yeah.
and you're still getting results, and you're still that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I think I agree. We agreeing on a C? Okay,
Yep,
right. Let's go straight for the jugular. Manchester United, Buvey.
Oh, it's a U?
Yeah, it's unclassified. We're grading A to F, and this is unclassified.
Yeah, it's so bad.
It's so bad.
I think it's a failure of a season.
It's unclassified. It's the worst team in the Premier
We
League.
have gone back. I think there's a lot of context
Yeah.
to that.
You're bottom
but when
of the
you
league.
look at the simple fact is, this is the greatest. Sorry, not the greatest. The worst league campaign we've had in my living memory. The last time we finished this low was 89-90. I was born in 89, so
Crazy.
I can't really remember that 89-90 season. I remember this one, and not too fondly. Just losing 14, that's over a third of your league games lost.
Champions League
Look,
campaign.
I bring in the context, and this is the reason why I think Ten Hag should stick about. The injuries have been massive injuries. Like, we've had injuries consistently throughout the season. I think we've had like 50, 60 different injuries, and we've only got 20-odd players. So the injuries have been shocking. We've ended the season with Casemiro and Johnny Evans at centre-back. That's not ideal. There's a lot of changes to be made. But we're ranking this season, and based off this season alone, it's a failure on the Premier League front.
Newcastle United, difficult one. Very difficult one.
They finished in the Champions League spots last year, but I predicted them to not finish in them this year because I thought, the teams below them would get better, Villa, Spurs, etc.
Back-to-back European qualification for them, though, right? Assuming that Manchester United don't win the Cup.
Which we can assume.
So back-to-back European qualification for Eddie Howe. Bearing in mind the club that he took over, they've got into the European Cup twice. They're developing some of the best players in the league. Bruno Guimaraes, Alexander Isak, Anthony Gordon been outrageous. I think you could possibly say that if Dubravka didn't have to play so much, they would have. I suppose we're not doing the.
They've injured their first choice. We talk about first choice keeper injured.
Yeah, Nick Pope, that's where it went wrong for them.
They competed in the Champions League in a couple of games. I think it's a decent season. B is maintaining.
Yeah,
season.
I think they made it. I think they made a pig's ear of their European campaign.
And the investment, I know it sounds ridiculous. They're the richest club in the world, but the investment isn't. He's not working with two world-class strikers.
No.
It's still very limited squad. Dan Burn at left back.
I think Newcastle have done well. I think Eddie Howe's done well. Again, I'm kind of basing this on them playing in Europe next year. And if they do play in Europe, I think they'll win that competition. They'll be in a conference.
Europa League?
Conference
League. Oh, yeah. They can do a West Ham.
Because you'll kick them out of it if you win the Cup.
Screams B to me.
Screams
No. You can't give it a B if they've gone backwards from last season. It doesn't mean you have to give them an F or an E.
Fine, C.
But you can't give them an... if you...
Back-to-back European qualifications for Newcastle is big, though. I know it's
one's
different.
Champions League and one's Conference League.
Maybe they just overachieved.
Maybe if it's Europa League, I'll stick with you.
Yeah. C then.
C.
Yeah, I think C's fair. C's fair.
Here we go, Chelsea.
It's a weird one because you end the season and you go, you won 5 in 5 of the last games. You finish 6. You get your European spot.
You're being really nice. If we take the season, you're right. If the season was 5 games, if the season was literally 5 games, and those 5 games were the last 5 games, we're an A star.
Yeah, of course.
We're champions. But the season is 38 games.
You said that you told me the other day there was a huge turning point for. What do you think it was?
I think the Arsenal game. I felt like the players almost there was an awakening in the dressing room that was just completely unacceptable. And I don't know if Pochettino has done it. If he has, fair play. I'm not sure how that's going to go, by the way. But I think the Arsenal game, the embarrassment, that was Chelsea's worst ever London derby defeat in the Premier League. I think QPR done us for 6 once, but pre-Premier League. It's never been worse. There's never been a worse performance that I've seen from Chelsea, ever. Literally ever. And I think that the players, maybe the more senior players, the Thiago Silvas, had a word. And I think a lot of people learned a lot about themselves that night. I think Trevor Chalobah has come into the team, has been brilliant. There are so many players that we know are not good enough, the likes of Dizazi and, Badiashile. They're just not good enough. So overall, we're a club in disarray. We finished strongly. However, I wasn't at the game the final day of the season. I was with you two. But what I heard was, I got a text from my mate that said, have you ever seen the final game of the season? Have you ever seen a situation where the manager hasn't done the lap of honour? Here we go. Look, I'll read it word for word. Ever seen a manager not do a lap of honour with his team? We have now. Straight down the tunnel after Thiago Silva's speech. So
he didn't even do normally every manager at every home ground today would have done a speech of some sort.
He doesn't.
Sorry for this season. It's been shit. We'll get better next season. Or
Chelsea fans get so annoyed with me when I say this, but I don't think he likes Chelsea. I don't think he really wants to be. I think he's a professional.
Like a Rafa.
Yeah.
Situation.
Yeah. He is the personification
the best
of
job he could have got.
He's the personification of Tottenham, isn't he? If you think of the public face of Tottenham Hotspur that represents that club so well over the last decade, maybe aside from Harry Kane, it's probably Pochettino.
Yeah, 100%. I think the cup finals is a massive one as well, for how you lost that. Lost to the kids with the money you've spent.
And actually, Boo, you're right. That the Liverpool one is a sickener. The Liverpool one is unforgivable. But City weirdly were there for the taking.
Yeah, chances. Yeah, you should have done better.
City were weirdly there for the taking.
I think it's a little bit more optimistic than you give them credit for.
Maybe you can be optimistic for the future, but judging this season as a whole, it's been a disaster. I've been wishing look, don't get me wrong. For the last month, I wish the season lasted another month. But I've been wishing the season away all season.
Where are you, 6th?
6th. Yeah, it's a strong end to the season. And if the season went another 6 weeks, I think we'd get Europe.
That's why I think
Champions
it's a C for you.
How can it be, though, over the course of the season?
It's not a C
over the course. Just let me just point a few things out to see if this changes your opinion. This season, Nottingham Forest, terrible away team. They've won at Stamford Bridge. Brentford have won at Stamford Bridge. Villa have won at Stamford Bridge. Sheffield United have taken a point off us. Burnley have taken a point off us. Everybody scores 2 goals against us, including Leeds United and Leicester from the Championship.
Yeah.
I don't think it's been a hateful season.
So some positive performances at the end. Some players come back from injury.
Are creating the illusion.
It's better than a D. It's just a D.
Yeah, I honestly, maybe I'm just being emotional here, and in fact, if I am, you two could actually be better placed to come up with the final score because I'm emotionally invested.
I think it's an E, man.
I think this is the worst season, apart from the Benitez season, which obviously ended in triumph, but the feeling around the club was sickening. Sarri was awkward, but again ended in triumph. This is the worst feeling I've ever had supporting Chelsea.
Also, this goes for United as well. So for fans that go, United had a shit season too. As for Chelsea, spending what they spent and having the squad that they had and letting Spurs, who let Kane go and get Ange Postecoglou come in, who had no experience of the Prem, and letting Villa finish above him. Villa have been fantastic, don't get me wrong. We'll talk about it.
They shouldn't be finishing above Chelsea.
But those two teams shouldn't. If it was just City, Arsenal, Liverpool, and Man United that finished above them, you go, all right. Yeah. Those four teams are more settled before the season started.
Also, we're judging the season in its entirety. If I'd asked you 6 weeks ago Chelsea's season, you would have gone you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You would have gone you. I know the final finishing point is relevant, but
I think it's a D or an E.
The feeling of the club,
maybe
the way I feel about half this team, the way I feel about Pochettino, the way I feel about the board. I know I'm being emotional and that's not the game we're playing here, but it's hateful.
Well, you have to be, it's your perception.
But it's hateful, yeah. But what we...
Bro, remember when they... Take yourself back to the summer when they were signing Caicedo and Lavia and what people were saying and how they were talking about Liverpool, for example.
And our worst ever performance in the Premier League happened this season, 6 weeks ago. If that.
The amount of goals conceded against Arsenal, you mean?
And the performance overall.
Yeah, the performance, yeah.
I think it's an E.
It's an E.
Agreed. Tottenham Hotspur, I'm not doing this.
Actually, I think Tottenham's is about a C or a D.
I think
C.
it's better. No, it's better than that.
C. It's not a D, it's a C or a B.
It's a B or a C.
It's not B.
Yeah. It is, potentially.
The only thing that you can criticise them for is not finishing above
Villa. The top four.
Yes, but where they were at the beginning of the season, they lost Kane. They brought in a manager that you and I laughed at. They brought in players like Udogie. I'm sure you both heard of him. I never heard of him. They brought in Udogie, Vicario to replace Lloris.
Sarr.
I just didn't think that they had it in them. I didn't think that they were able to do it. I didn't think that they would compete for the top four. And the fact that they finished in the European spots, okay, it's been an underwhelming end to the season for them. That they had that weird, awkward moment where they wanted to get beat, and they were correct, but that's awkward for them. They obviously don't want to see their team lose to Arsenal when they did. Oh, they finished below Villa. They should have made it into the European spots. They didn't. That's slightly underwhelming and underachieving. But over the course of the season, they finished fifth. I did not think they were going to do that. Neither did you, because me and you were laughing at them.
I think it's a C.
We went on to Australian telly laughing.
Yeah, we did. And they haven't contacted me since. They've been rubbish.
The thing is, we're going to be proved correct. Postecoglou sacked by Christmas.
If I say that there are some shoots of optimism, and you finish for Chelsea, and you finish just a few points off Spurs, and we're saying Spurs have had to blood in new players, brand new manager,
Spurs didn't spend £1 billion to replace Harry Kane. You know, Spurs lost Harry Kane.
But we've been very critical of Chelsea, and then one position above Chelsea with a very similar setup.
Both clubs are different, man. We're talking about Chelsea, a club
more
that have won
money,
European Cups. But
they brought in loads of players. Spurs, they've got a brand new manager. There's calls for optimism. They give themselves an opportunity in the middle of the season to secure fourth. There are Spurs fans thinking they could win the title. Flav said on the debate on this very channel, they're in a title race out of nowhere. And they came fifth.
To bring context to previous points.
To you.
Of the last 5 games, they lost 3 of them.
It's embarrassing.
Winning one of those gives them Champions League football.
The Newcastle performance.
That's bad. That's bad.
So you lads, the Newcastle performance, I've not seen anything like it in many years. They're so porous defensively. You can't set up a defensive unit. So we slag off Chelsea. I want to be a little bit more optimistic about what I've seen from Chelsea in terms of Cole Palmer and stuff like that. They're only one position below Spurs. So they're a U as well then.
Mate, that's bad.
Or an E.
I think Spurs are a C or a B.
But Villa have come out of nowhere. Villa, with the squad they've got, I know Emery's a genius, but Spurs with
won in Europe
Champions League
this season,
experience.
Spurs were not in Europe this season, you know.
So, yeah.
So I'm making the point. He's got them back into Europe.
Look, they've gone from 8th.
But they don't want to
They've gone from 8th
without Harry Kane.
They've gone from 8th to 5th, having lost their best player and their inspirational captain for the past decade.
They had one game.
That in itself.
But Son's still there as a world class player.
No. But the inspirational captain I'm talking about is Hugo Lloris, like the persona, right?
Yeah.
They've lost their goalkeeper, who has been like their personality and their stature for a decade. They've lost their best ever player in the same summer.
Villa are finishing above them, and they played Thursday nights and Spurs didn't.
Yeah, it's a C for me.
I would have potentially gone higher considering how bad I thought.
Because I think a B is
C.
like 4th or something
C.
like that. You know what I mean?
You agree on C?
I have to say you, so it's whatever you like.
Okay, so
honestly.
C.
C.
Right, Villa. Wow.
It's
an A, and it's easy as
A.
pie.
Unbelievable. Manager of the season.
A is
for me.
Yeah, it's easy as pie. It's A. They've been outrageous. You think of the former Leon Bailey, the former Pau Torres when he's fit, the former Dougie Luiz earlier in the season, the former Ollie Watkins all year round. Unai Emery, manager of the year, the whole end partying like they're in the Quip in 1982. They are flying.
And of the last 5 games, they've only won 1. So I know we kind of criticise other teams for that, but if you think about it, had they won a couple of more games, you're talking about them possibly finishing, closer to Liverpool. And, 4th for Villa is huge. Unai Emery going in there, man, doing what he's done.
Unbelievable.
He's turned Villa
individuals, team, they're everything, man. They're
stopped
wicked.
Arsenal winning the league.
Unai Emery is everything I want Mauricio Pochettino to be.
He's got Ollie Watkins playing like a man possessed.
It's everyone. It's throughout the
Douglas
team.
Luiz.
Doug Luiz.
At one point, he scored like 7 games in a row at Villa Park.
Beginning of the season, man. Yeah, he was unreal. He was the man at the beginning of the season.
Was that like Juan Pablo Angar's record he broke?
Yeah.
Outrageous.
Yeah, absolutely
So good.
sensational.
So
Liverpool's an interesting one.
A for Villa, by the way. if anyone was
the easiest one. The easiest one. Liverpool, really difficult.
I think it's an A.
What?
They won a cup final. They're a side in transition.
What are you talking about?
It's Klopp's last season.
What are you talking about? Why are you
It's
being
an
all
A.
emotional about it? It doesn't matter if it's Klopp's last season. They finished the season in 3rd space with 1 year.
It's like we're yapping their lips about winning a quadruple.
They were talking about a quadruple, and they've ended the season with a League Cup.
I never backed them for the quadruple.
And you didn't.
At the start of the season.
You're giving them an A.
Oh
What are you
my
up to?
God.
What? You can't. Think
An A
that's
for Liverpool with Klopp is winning the league.
This is a side heavily in transition. This is a side where we talk about your injuries at Man United. Matip, big injury. Alisson, big injury. And they're competing with Arsenal and City.
Van Dijk and Konate available all of the
They didn't
season.
lose to the league leaders, Man City, the champions. I think maybe it's a low A or maybe it's a high B, but I'm not saying it's the best performance
It's not
in the
an A
league.
or a B.
But to come third, to get back into the Champions League, a side in transition.
It's Liverpool, and at one point they were on for a quadruple, and they're ending the season. Jurgen Klopp's farewell tour and all that. They're ending the season with a League Cup.
Bro, they didn't beat Man United this season. We're shit.
I'm
more
I
generous.
thought you were
I
going to
think
go to the judge.
He's brought a load of players in. He set them up for a platform for success.
And
for
also,
Arne
you
Slot.
brought Europe into it when it was Man United, so we're just going to do it for right now. We knocked them out of the cup as well. What did they do in Europe? Not a lot. Europa League they were in.
Do you
getting them back
They were
into
in
the
the
Champions
Europa
League.
League.
Are you going to reassess this? Because I feel like you're A
Yeah,
for
I
Liverpool.
did. A minute ago, I said low A.
But you've not reassessed it because your answer would still be A.
Yeah.
So what are you saying? It's a D.
C.
It's a C or a D.
Really?
C. I think C. Is,
No, it's a C.
How can you say Spurs?
Getting Champions
You
League
say
football
Spurs
is
is a
about
B?
right. Expected. No one said it was Spurs.
Well, because
was a B.
Liverpool won a cup, and they're back in the Champions League, and they've signed loads of players that have all been
Wait,
successful.
you said how can we say that Tottenham have had a better season proportionally than Liverpool?
Yeah, that's crazy
I think
for me,
it's-
man.
I think it's so obvious that Tottenham have had a better season considering expectations. Ange Postecoglou versus
Where did
Jurgen
Liverpool
Klopp.
finish last season?
Ange
They finished sixth or
Postecoglou,
whatever.
Ange
fifth.
Postecoglou making his debut in the Premier League versus Jurgen Klopp.
Yeah, Jurgen Klopp who's had to deal with major injuries, which I think is a fair
And
point.
so is Ange Postecoglou. Losing his best player,
Yeah, and
Ange Postecoglou.
We're talking about injuries
we
now,
talk about
yeah.
Ange having to bring in loads of
Remember
players.
when I talking about injuries
Liverpool
5
made the
minutes ago?
decision to get rid of one of their best players in the last 10 years in midfield, Jordan Henderson, and Fabinho. And Mane left the season before.
Any other manager, you criticise them for Mo Salah not firing. Where's Mo Salah been? He's been having arguments with him. He's not been firing.
I'm not saying that. But they've come third. They competed with Man City and Arsenal this season. They've been good, lads. Maybe it's not. Maybe
No,
A
they've
is too
been
much.
good, but A's.
Do
A.
you know when you said how can we possibly say that Tottenham have had a better season
I
proportionally
really
than
can't.
Liverpool?
I can't have it.
I don't think.
I can.
I think it's-
But that's why I gave. Look,
Tottenham
I
have
gave
had a
Spurs
better
an E.
season than Liverpool proportionally. Ange
context,
Postecoglou making his debut in the Premier League and finishing fifth
came.
is more impressive than Klopp, who's had 7 years pedigree at the club, and finishing third and winning a League Cup.
I think it's a C, man. They've improved
It's a
that
C.
last season, but they haven't done as well
I
as
believe
they.
Buvey said an A. I'm
Nah, it's mad. You're
Is it
trolling.
mad?
Are you
I'm
trolling?
honestly.
no, but it's not trolling
Maybe I'm
because it's
misreading the
being
situation.
polite.
Because
it's being
Jurgen
nice.
Klopp has had a couple of A's in terms of seasons.
Of course he has.
This
The
is
majority
probably
of
his
them.
worst.
Yeah.
Well, not worse than last season, but it's one of them.
I agree.
Loads of kids coming back, winning the cup, out-competing sides that have spent billions in Chelsea,
Didn't win
Man
the cup,
United.
he won a cup, which is for them
a cup.
fairly.
Yeah, and it's not the best cup. It's the fourth best cup. I get that. But he's given them a platform for
Was
success.
Ten Hag an A last season?
Huh?
Yeah, exactly. Great question.
Ten Hag did exactly what Klopp's done.
Absolutely great question. Absolutely great.
No, I don't have legally. I have to answer that
Buvey,
question.
you're legally obliged to answer that. The podcast will not continue until you answer that. Was Ten Hag an A last season?
Yeah, maybe if it's it's not though. So all right, maybe I'm wrong then. I'll go B. I'll go B with Liverpool.
Adam
I'll hold my hands
McKola.
up.
Adam McKola.
That's
I think
the best thing you've ever.
You
That's
get
Jeremy Paxton level.
Adam McKola gets an award there. That was
Yeah.
superb.
That was checkmate.
Absolutely.
How'd you get that? How'd you find that in your
Absolutely
locker?
superb. That's the kind of thing that usually comes into my head when I'm like driving home
Or in the shower?
Yeah.
In the shower.
I
wish I said that.
Yeah.
All right, B for Liverpool, lads. Yes, agree.
No, it's not a B because me and him are voting here.
I think it's a C. Yeah, you've got
It's a C.
nuts. You've got dehydration.
But we're all on the club, so you.
dehydrated.
Huh?
Are you dehydrated?
Yeah, I might be. So
That adds a
give me a
B in a
letter. Give
while.
me a letter. C, C.
C, C, C.
So I say
said
A,
you're-
so we meet in the middle B. That makes sense to me.
And C it is. Arsenal Football Club. Buvey. Let's hang on. This would be right interesting.
Go on then.
Have Arsenal had a better season than Liverpool?
You can't give him an A. You can't give him an A.
Okay, but Klopp gets an A, but Arteta gets a...
No, I did redact that.
No, you didn't.
I did. I literally, I made a mistake. I held my hands up.
because it came out on the show.
Yeah. And then a minute later, I
Redacted
said,
means it's not seen. in the document.
Yeah.
someone's got a law degree. That's fair enough. But look, B for Arsenal and Liverpool, I think is fair.
So Arsenal have had as good a season
they're
as
top of the
Liverpool.
table at the turn of the year and they lose to Fulham and West Ham.
So you
Can't
think
beat Villa at home?
you think Liverpool?
I'm sure Liverpool
season,
were top of the table.
So you
at
think
Christmas.
Liverpool and Arsenal have had the same stature of season?
Oh, check it.
Let me
What
check
are you
it.
fact checking?
I'm sure Liverpool were top of the table at Christmas.
Oh no! Look, if Arsenal are big, look, if we agree, Arsenal, if are Arsenal a big football club? Answer me this question.
I'll answer this. Yes.
They should have won the league title this season.
So did Arsenal?
So they failed.
Did Liverpool have a better season than
No,
Arsenal?
don't bring up Liverpool. We've moved on. Live in the present moment. We're now on Arsenal. Finished above Liverpool.
No, but I need to understand your grading of Arsenal.
Would you
so
at
Arsenal
least
is a B.
accept this for us? Liverpool's position as a squad is massively in transition. They've had to sell Fabinho, one of the best DMs the league's ever seen, arguably. Henderson, a few other players, right, that don't come to mind. But loads of transition. Young players have had to come in and fill the void of Matip and Kelleher in goal. Is this a side in transition? Do you agree with that point?
I agree with it on
Boswell's
some
come
level.
in,
Yes, I
bit like
agree with it.
Udogi's
I
come
agree
in
with it
at
on some
Spurs.
level. Yeah.
McAllister's come in.
Yeah.
He gets them back into the Champions League, wins a cup against Chelsea, outcompetes Man United and Chelsea. So on some level, maybe I was being too generous with the A, so it's a B for Liverpool.
Okay, B for Liverpool.
Arsenal are primed to win the league. They nearly won the league last season. They beat City at the Emirates and they were gassed about a 0-0 at the Etihad. This is a side primed to win something.
They're incredibly young.
And they've
though,
won
aren't they? When
nothing.
you say primed to win,
They're primed
they're
in terms
incredibly young. Like
Yeah,
Saka's
but they're
probably their best player and he's a kid.
But it's young, world-class players. They've got the privilege of having young, also world-class players. That they've some of them developed. They brought in Odegaard. They spent a lot of money comparatively to City. They've spent in the last couple of years very similar number to City. It's not a third or anything like that or quarter.
So
Very
to
similar.
conclude, your Arsenal and Liverpool same grade.
B.
Okay, I would disagree with that. I would say that Arsenal is quite clearly an A.
No trophies.
I don't think it's an A.
It's 89 points.
I think it's B.
They've won the most games. They've lost the least. They've scored the most goals. They've got the best record in the mini league versus the other big teams. They've broken the invincible win
won
record.
nothing.
They've broken the invincible win record. They're 1 point off the invincible tally. This is clearly an A-star season for Arteta.
I think it's dangerous when you compare seasons to other seasons, but also they've won nothing.
They've won nothing because of the
A-star.
brilliance of City.
They
and
just
City,
brought in
and we'll-
Declan Rice,
and
who
we'll
was
grade, and we'll
most
grade,
sought after player.
We'll grade City
brought in-
accordingly.
But we can't
We'll
use
grade
City to grade Arsenal. If you put your head down and you
No, okay, let's grade them. Let's grade them in a vacuum. Let's not bring in context at all. They got 89 points. That's an ace season. You don't want it to be in context. You don't want to make it relevant to anyone else.
It's a great points total. It's a great win against
So it's
the-
not about winning the league.
Yeah,
it's just
yeah.
a vacuum.
The Champions
They
League
got
campaign was
89
good.
points. They conceded the least goals. They scored the most.
Yeah.
Their keeper got the Golden Gloves. 89 points.
They didn't win anything.
That's
And in
they're
the
a big
same
club.
token, you just went Ten Hag season can go from an E to a B just by winning the FA Cup.
No doubt.
So how did
Spot on.
Because
you can't then go A for Arsenal, because then what if they would have won something? What would it have been
Because
then?
89 points is a title-winning tally.
But
the reason you
not
didn't
the
win the
last 10
league
years.
is nothing to do with you. The reason you didn't win the league is because of the brilliance of another team.
But it is to do with that.
It isn't.
Couldn't be West Ham at home.
89 points is a
They couldn't beat
title-winning...
Villa.
89 points is what they finished the season with, which they would have taken at the beginning. If you offer me now 89 points for Chelsea next season, 89, I take it and I believe it will win the league.
No, you hope. You sit there gambling. You're rolling the dice.
If it doesn't win the league, it will be because of the brilliance of your manager or Arteta, I imagine.
There's only one club in the last 10 years that can sit there and say we should have won the league coming second. That's Liverpool with 97 points. If you can average what the last 10 years is 91 points, which Arsenal missed by 2 points, you do not deserve to win the league.
That is misleading, Buvey. That stat is misleading because to make the average 91, you got the Centurions in it. To make the tally 91, you got the 98 in it.
Also a very low Leicester City side that on the other side of that argument. Leicester City came with 81 points.
But I would say that the average isn't. The average is that because of the points. But most seasons individually, 89 will get you there. And if it doesn't get you there,
but you can use Chelsea with Mourinho not over 90 points.
If Chelsea hit 89 next season and we don't, that's an amazing tally. Imagine the victories. Imagine the fun that you have along the way, winning basically every week. If you don't win the league, all you have to do is say we've been brilliant, man. We've got 89. Fair play to the other geezer. That's what I would say. Fair play to the other geezer. And if I were an Arsenal fan, I would say it was a perfect season. There was just someone who was better.
But
that's my take.
I kind of see where Rory's coming from, but I do think those things kind of ring true when it's a smaller club. Arsenal are a club that at least expect to win trophies, and you've not won a trophy. If you finish second and you win the Champions League, all right, cool. If you finish second and you win the Cup, all right, cool. But you haven't
even the FA Cup.
And ultimately, this team will be remembered for nothing until they do.
Okay, well, let's average it out and give them a grade. I'm saying A. Buvey saying
B.
Adam saying
B.
The answer is B. Arsenal is a B.
Like, we're gonna I just don't. I think A suggests you've done something special.
I would argue they have, but maybe all of the things that we said, the mini league, the more goals, the less conceded, all of that stuff, I believe.
Also, we started the day, the final day of the season, suggesting,
they took a title race down to the final season against one of the best teams ever.
We started that day going, are they the best team in the league this season?
I said they were. I argued they were.
Yeah.
Okay, if you B it is for Arsenal, which means Man City. There's very little. I think I've made my feelings known because I've said that Arsenal, who finished second to this team, were an A. I therefore think this team are one of the best things ever assembled, one of the best things I've ever seen in my life, one of the best collection of players ever put together by one of the greatest men to have ever walked the face of the earth in the game.
4 in a row. I mean, how much?
If we're not including,
how do you get hunger out of players like that? Multi-millionaires that have won multiple things, Champions Leagues. How do you get the hunger? How do you get it out? It's absolutely sensational.
Do you know what I think it must be? A lot of it. I think he must sign good men.
Characters.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think you can only sign the best footballers or good footballers, or which is maybe what Chelsea do. Chelsea have gone out and spent a lot of money on the best player. I feel like Guardiola must sign like a very particular genre of person. It's not only how many goals you're going to score, what's your tackling ability like, do you fancy victories? It's like, who are you?
Hunger.
Existentially, what do you represent? Yeah. Are you a geezer that I want with me?
A fighter, yeah.
And they obviously are.
Yeah, and we're very lucky to see it. 1,000,000%.
The Premier League is over though. Those were all our gradings. Let us know what you guys think in terms of the grades that we gave to certain teams. Were we harsh on some? Were we too kind to others?